We're going to be starting off today with this guide as what race should you do. So, number 1, Pandaren. They have a fantastic racial where it doubles all well-fed buffs. So generally, in Mists of Pandaria Classic, if you can be a Pandaren, be a Pandaren. That means that if your food buff gives you 300 intellect, Pandaren will actually get 600 intellect. It also means as you get further through the expansion, they will also get even better. If you don't want to go Pandaren, however, no worries. Trolls for the Horde are really, really good options. They have Berserking, which is basically a haste increase on cooldown, and they also deal more damage to beasts, but that's not as exciting. For the Alliance, you're going to want to go Draenei, if you're not going Pandaren, that is. They do get a global cooldown-free emergency heal called Gift of the Naru, and if you are going Elemental or Enhancement at some point, then they also do get an easier time hitting their spell hit cap due to their heroic presence, which gives them an extra 1% hit chance as well. But, like I said, for both Horde and Alliance, you are generally going to want to go for Pandaren for the double well-fed bonus. The talents also have a massive overhaul in Mists of Pandaria Classic. So, for all 3 specs, Elemental, Enhancement and Restoration, we get the same talents here. On the first line, I would recommend you go with Astral Shift. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown, reducing damage by 40% for 6 seconds, so a really great defensive. If you don't want that option, but you want something to help you when you do get to low health, Nature's Guardian can be a really good option. Whenever a damaging attack brings you below 30% health, your maximum health is massively increased for 10 seconds, and your threat level is reduced. Now, I don't think it's as good as Astral Shift, which we can use whenever the hell we like. If you don't like that, you can go with Stone Bulwark, however, on a minute cooldown that is an Earth Totem with 10% of your health, and basically it's going to make an Absorb Shield for 10 seconds, and then some amounts thereafter every 5 seconds. On the second line, I like to go with Windwalk Totem, but generally we can go with Earth Grab as well if needed. So Windwalk Totem, it's an air totem, and it's going to be at the feet of the caster, so you. And basically, any raid members within 40 yards are going to be have immunity to movement impairing effects. Whereas Earth Grab is going to pulse every 5 seconds, causing roots to ensnare the legs of your enemies. So Windwalk is basically for your allies, getting rid of any movement impairment, whereas Earth Grab is actually for your enemies, rooting and slowing them. Now, we can change these talents out whenever we want with Tome of the Clear Mind. That is something really cool that we can do in MoP Classic, meaning that the talents are a lot more interchangeable now. For your Tier 3, I like to go with Call of the Elements. When you activate it, it immediately finishes the cooldown on any totems that have a base cooldown shorter than 3 minutes. So, what are these going to work on? Grounding Totem, Earthbind Totem, Earth Grab, Healing Stream, Capacitor, Stone Bulwark, Tremor, and Windwalk Totem are some of the ones that you're going to be using a lot of that have under 3 minute cooldowns. On the fourth line, we could go with Echo of the Elements or Elemental Mastery. Elemental Mastery gives you 30% haste every 1.5 minutes and it lasts 20 seconds. So a really good burst phase of DPS or healing, depending on what you need at the time, whenever you want. Echo of the Elements, however, when one of your spells causes direct damage or healing, you have a chance to gain Echo of the Elements, duplicating that spell's effect. So that one is going to be happening passively, meaning you're going to be doing more damage and healing throughout the encounter, whereas Elemental Mastery gives you a lot more burst. If it is a fight where you need a massive burst period, then go with Elemental Mastery. Otherwise, Echo of the Elements, I personally would go with for the extra passive healing and DPS. On the second to last line, again, all 3 are viable. Rushing Streams, your Healing Stream Totem now heals 2 targets at once for an additional healing. Ancestral Guidance, another cooldown that we can get. When you deal direct damage or healing for the next 10 seconds, 40% of your damage or 60% of your healing is copied as healing to up to 3 nearby injured party or raid members. So if you're DPSing, it's a great way that you can help out the other healers in the fight, or if you're healing, then it's a great way that you can do extra healing. So in big healing intensive phases, if you're doing either 3 specs, this is going to really help out. Lastly, we have Conductivity. When you cast Healing Wave, etc., your healing range duration is increased. When you also cast DPS spells, your healing range duration is increased. This can be used in fights where basically the enemies and your group are stacked up at the same location, which seems to happen a lot in 5-man dungeons, and obviously some raid environments. You can put down Healing Rain and then spam Chain Lightning if you're DPSing in order to get extra healing out for the raid, even when you are DPSing or when healing. This is going to obviously be something you're using on cooldown anyway, and therefore we can get a longer Healing Rain. Again, on the last one, all three are viable. However, I do believe that in Elemental Blast, at least to my tests, is performing better. On a 12-second cooldown, we're going to hurl this towards our target and doing a massive amount of damage, but also increasing our critical strike, haste, or mastery by 3,500 for 8 seconds. So we can use this on cooldown to pretty much get one of our secondary stats up by a massive amount by quite a lot. So it's up for 8 seconds and it's a 12-second cooldown, meaning we can get a lot of uptime on this. If you don't want to use that, however, we can go for Unleashed Fury, where basically it empowers some of your elemental effects on your weapons when triggered with Unleash elements. For the glyphs that we're going to want to take, we do have a few good ones. We have Glyph of Feral Spirit, increasing the healing done by your Feral Spirit's Spirit Hunt by 40%. Glyph of Flame Shock, when you Flame Shock and deal damage, it'll also heal you for some of that. So a lot of healing that we can get here. Fire Elemental, reducing the cooldown and duration. This is kind of a boon and a curse, because what we can do is better align it with our other cooldowns, so it doesn't actually affect everything overall. You know, it's halving the cooldown, but also the duration. So it depends if the burst period you're in, etc., is going to be long or short, whether as to the Fire Elemental Totem will be useful to you or not. Glyph of Fire Nova is good. This is an AoE spell we'll be using, and we can increase the radius of it. So if you're up against multiple enemies, we could go with this one to get a bigger effect. And we have things like Glyph of Lightning Shield. If you are taking damage, whenever it's triggered, you take 10% less damage. So there are a few good options for you. For Mr. Pandaria Classic, I'm teaming up with Zygor to give you 20% off with code Javier. Zygor gives you the fastest and most efficient leveling experience. As you can see here, looking at killing snow leopards, I can even click all the different waypoint coordinates to see the fastest way to get to the different areas they may be in. It can also look at flight paths and show me which ways to go, including all of the different travel options. And when choosing quest rewards, it can even tell me which is the best upgrade for me. And this will be even spec dependent. I can click on the gloves, complete the quest, and then it will even tell me to equip them and shows me how much attributes and stats I will gain by equipping these items. Maybe even talents. I can use the Talent Advisor with Zygor, simply clicking that I want to be an Affliction Warlock, and it's going to configure it automatically to show me the best leveling build for Affliction for me. The fun doesn't stop there, though, because it's available for SOD, Classic, Retail, Leveling. I can choose zones I want to go into, and it'll tell me how to get there and do all of the leveling in that zone, even if you're going back to old zones that you've leveled out of. Dungeons, dailies, events, reputation, gold-making, professions, pets and mounts, and achievements. You can use as little or as much as you like. And don't forget, you can get 20% off with code Javier and battle past everyone at lightning speed in Mr. Pandaria Classic. Moving on to the actual rotation, first up, the first thing we're going to do is keep our Searing Totem up at all times. After that, our highest priority is going to be Unleash Elements. This is assuming that you have gone with the Unleashed Fury talent. You can go Elemental Blast. Unleashed Fury is pulling ahead a little bit in the DPS simulations that I have actually been running. So in these three options at level 90, I would actually, turns out, go for Unleashed Fury. This is basically going to increase the effects of your weapon enchantments. And as a dual-wielding Enhancement Shaman, what we can do here, I've got my weapon imbues. We're going to be using Wind Fury on our main hand weapon and Flame Tongue on our offhand weapon. So Wind Fury gives each hit a 20% chance to trigger 3 extra attacks with bonus attack power. And unleashing this is going to deal a load of weapon damage to the target and increase our melee attack speed for the next 6 swings or until 12 seconds have elapsed. Flame Tongue is going to imbue it with fire, increasing magical damage done, and each hit is going to cause fire damage. Based on the speed of the weapon, slower weapons deal more fire damage per swing. And when we unleash that enchantment, we deal fire damage to the enemy and increase damage dealt by our next fire spell. So basically, how do we unleash them then? Well, that is from Unleash Elements, and we will be using that on cooldown in order to maximise the buffs we get from our weapon imbues. So keep up your Searing Totem at all times, and keep up your Unleash Elements as much as possible by using it on cooldown. Now you'll notice up here we have a buff, 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. Reduces the cast time and mana cost of your next nature spell with a base cast time shorter than 10 seconds completely. And we're going to use that on Lightning Bolt. So whenever you have 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, use your Lightning Bolt. It will be instant. Maelstrom Weapon is this passive here. When you deal damage with a melee weapon, you have a chance to get a Maelstrom Weapon stack. So whenever you get 5 stacks, use it on Lightning Bolt. After that, make sure you're applying and refreshing Flame Shock on your target. After that, use Storm Strike on cooldown, use Lava Lash on cooldown. Storm Strike does a load of damage and grants you an additional chance to critically strike with your Lightning Bolt and etc. whenever you next use them. And Lava Lash, you charge your offhand weapon with lava, dealing loads of damage and spreading your Flame Shock from that target to up to 4 nearby enemies. So when you do have Flame Shock on and then you use your Lava Lash, it will actually spread to nearby enemies. That one probably isn't quite close enough. But yes, so any enemies grouped up, your Lava Lash will spread the Flame Shock onto them. After that, we're going to use Earth Shock on cooldown, and then if you've got nothing else to press, we're going to use Lightning Bolt as a filler. So, just to recap, use Unleash Elements on cooldown, keep up your Searing Totem at all times. Whenever you have 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, use your Lightning Bolt. Keep Flame Shock up at all times, use Storm Strike on cooldown, use Lava Lash on cooldown, use Earth Shock on cooldown, and then use Lightning Bolt as a filler if you have nothing else to press. And that is the single target rotation. It's really quite simple. If you have decided to take Elemental Blast instead of Unleashed Fury, then you would just use Elemental Blast as your #1 priority rather than Unleash Elements. Regarding the AoE rotation, if you have 2 enemies, just do your normal single target rotation and use your Lava Lash to spread your Flame Shock to them. If you've got 3 or more enemies, then rather than Searing Totem, we're going to use Magma Totem, which is basically an AoE version, and then we're going to replace Lightning Bolt with Chain Lightning instead as well. Your Maelstrom Weapon will also affect that. We can also use Fire Nova on cooldown at that point. Ignites your Flame Shock on nearby enemies, causing each of them to emit waves of flames that deal damage to nearby enemies. And that's what you'll be doing for the AoE rotation. Regarding your cooldowns, in fact, actually, before we go on to cooldowns, let's just mention the other things you'll be using. You will be using your Lightning Shield as well, surrounding you with lightning. The attackers will be struck for nature damage whenever that happens, and we also can cleanse curses from friendly targets if needed to help out. Another thing you can do is use Spirit Walker's Grace on cooldown, which allows you to actually cast your spells while moving, so that's a really great cooldown in case you do need movement. We obviously have Bloodlust, increasing haste by 30% for us in the entire raid. This is the biggest cooldown in the game, of course, so do use this when your raid leader tells you to. And then we've got Healing Tide Totem, which can help out with healing if needed, pulsing and doing a load of healing for the raid. Ascendant, so in Enhancement, your auto attacks and Storm Strike deal pure nature damage and have a 30-yard range, and your Storm Strike is now turned into Storm Blast. Use it in the same kind of rotation, but just know that it does a lot more damage now in that cooldown. And we also have our Fire Elemental Totem, which basically summons a massive fire elemental, and that's another cooldown that we have as well. And I've forgotten to put up my bars. Where is it? Feral Spirits as well. Summon in 2 Feral Spirits that aid you. They are immune to movement impairment effects, and their attacks heal them and their master, which is you, for 210% of the damage done. So you can use that on cooldown as well. We do also have a defensive called Shamanistic Rage, reducing all damage taken by 30% and causing offensive spells, etc. to consume no mana. And then we start going on to the passives. So Echo of the Elements, when dealing damage, you have a chance to duplicate that effect. We have Flurry, after dealing a melee critical strike, we're actually going to get increased haste. And our Mastery, Enhanced Elements, which is our stat from Mastery, is going to increase all fire, frost, and nature damage done. So pretty simple there. So you do need to really have your Lightning Shield active because of Static Shock. When you use your Storm Strike and Lava Lash abilities while having Lightning Shield active, you have a chance to deal damage equal to your Lightning Shield orb. So you will actually be doing damage from your Lightning Shield even if you are not being directly damaged. There's also a buff that we can give our allies. Melee and range attack speed is increased by 10%, and that is called Unleashed Rage. There's another 2 as well, Burning Wrath, increasing nearby spell power, and Grace of Air, increasing mastery for nearby allies as well. So Shamans really do bring a lot to the table. We also have Wind Shear on a 12-second cooldown, which is your interrupt for interrupting the enemy's spellcasting. Use this as much as you can, especially in dungeons, etc. Before we go on to the stat priority, I want to explain one thing, which is mental quickness. Your spell power is now equal to 65% of your attack power, and you no longer benefit from other sources of spell power. Your instant spells and totems cost less mana, and your shock spells cost a lot less mana as well. Your melee attacks have a chance to immediately restore some of your mana too. That's because us Enhancement Shamans actually favour agility and attack power over spell power, even though we're a mana user. So this kind of passive kind of equals that out, even though it sounds a bit confusing. But now let's get on to the stat prios themselves. So the actual stat priority you're going to be going for as an Enhancement Shaman in MoP Classic is, number 1, agility, increasing your attack power and also your crit chance. Now after that, it's going to get interesting. We're going to need hit chance at 7.5% and expertise at 7.5%. Expertise means that the enemy can dodge or parry your attacks, and hit chance is actually you missing your attacks. So you need 7.5 for both. Now, it's interesting because we also use spells, and the spell hit cap is 15%, which is 7.5 and 7.5 anyway, meaning when you do hit the hit chance and expertise cap of 7.5 each, you will actually automatically hit the hit cap for spells as well, so you don't need to worry about that. After that, we really want to go for mastery. It just flat out increases our frost, fire, and nature damage done, which is pretty much all of our damage, and therefore it's going to be really, really good for us. After that, it's going to be crit and haste. They're very, very, very similar, so I would say just get haste or crit after that as your lowest priority. It doesn't matter too much. Going back very quickly onto hit rating, I just want to mention that if you are a Draenei, don't forget you have the heroic presence racial, meaning you need about 300 less hit rating to hit the hit cap. 2,550 for normal races, 2,210 for Draenei. The same with expertise. If you're a dwarf, you have mace specialization, and you're using a mace, you actually need 300 less expertise. And same with orcs, you need 300 less if you're wielding an axe because of your axe specialization. For your gems, you're going to want to go with an Agile Primal Diamond on your meta slot, and in your red slot, it will be Delicate Primordial Rubies. Now, it's interesting how it works with yellow and blue, so what I'm going to say here is if the socket bonus isn't 60 agility or more, then go for a Delicate Primordial Ruby to give yourself more agility. If it is 60 agility, then we can match the socket bonus and go for something like an Adept Vermilion Onyx. Same on the blue slot. If it's not a 60 agility or more socket socket bonus, then go for a Delicate Primordial. Otherwise, go for Glinting Imperial Amethysts. For the enchants that you've got available, we've got Inscription on the shoulders. You can add Accuracy and Crit, etc. on your back. If you're a tailor, you can actually add, I think it gives you about 1,000 attack power for the embroidery with Sword Guard, Glorious Stats on the chest, Agility on your wrists, and you can add an extra socket if you are a blacksmith. Same with the wrists, you can actually add fur lining with Agility if you are actually a leather worker. On your hands, if you do need the expertise, you can use it with an enchant. Otherwise, it's haste, mastery, etc. Synapse, springs, and socket for the gloves as well with blacksmiths. Everyone, no matter your profession, can add a living steel belt buckle, but they probably will get expensive. Shadow leather leg armor. Again, leather workers have a better one. Blurred speed on the feet. There's a cheaper version if you can't afford it. 2 greater agility enchants on your rings if you're an enchanter. And then the weapon enchants will be Dancing Steel, Elemental Force, or Windsong. Looking at the actual professions you can get yourself, you can get blacksmithing and jewel crafting to add 320 agility through gems, blacksmithing in the form of extra slots, and jewel crafting, of course, in the actual effect of getting, better gems. Alchemy, enchanting, inscription, and engineering all add about 320 agility, whereas leatherworking adds 330, so a teeny weeny little boost there, and tailoring gives about 1,000 attack power. Lastly, on the buffs you can get, Sea Mist Rice Noodles give you 300 agility, Valley Stir Fry gives you 275 agility, Banquet of the Wok, which is the banquet you'll be probably using, at 275, and Sauteed Carrots at 250. These aren't the actual icons for it, obviously. I made this myself, I'm quite proud. Any other banquets after that? For your flask, it's the Flask of Spring Blossoms, and Vermin's Bite is going to be your potion. And there we go, guys. That is everything you need to know to play Enhancement Shaman in Mr. Pandaria Classic. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, do click subscribe, of course, and leave a like. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you do want to get Zygor, which I would really recommend, it's an amazingly helpful app. You can get 20% off, don't forget, with code Javier down in the description below. And if you want to support the channel, then you can do that via Patreon, also linked in the description below, where you get LVI profiles and lots more. Should you be looking for other spec guides, then check out the playlist you now see on screen.